So the question we have to ask is, what is a multifamily dwelling? It's basically anything bigger than a duplex. And why would we exclude duplexes?
Really single size.
Yeah. The labor that the fire department is going to have to expend is not much different than a house fire. You have to think, okay, there's these people that live here and there's those people that live there. I need to make sure that they're out because these people's house is on fire, right? You have that little bit of complexity, but labor-wise, it's about the same. But when you get into a triplex or a quadplex, those things, labor-wise, because they're not all built the same, but labor-wise, now you're talking something a little bit more intensive. So this becomes a multifamily dwelling. So you got your triplex, a fourplex, and it could be the McEwen, which is a common type of construction that we have. Townhouses or row houses, condominiums. What if you pull up to a line of condos or townhouses and there's a wall that sticks up between the units above the roof line? What is that? Firewall. It's a firewall, right? So if you pull up, you see that. Ugh, that's cool. Maybe we can keep it contained to this one that's on fire here. Okay, so if you have that, you might see that. There's probably different real estate ways to describe those types of buildings, but basically it's a multifamily dwelling. You have apartments that get converted into condominiums where you can buy the space, that type of thing. Nursing homes. When I think nursing homes, I think Beatty Avenue, right? That's an institutional, single-story nursing home. But what do we have popping up all over the place that keeps us hopping and busy? Okay, right. So throw out a couple names. Sabrina Lane, right? The Meadows. What's the one over by 74? Carlton Plaza. Camden Springs, right? So all these places are popping up. They're constructed more like our single-family dwellings, mostly wood framed, but can be multi-story. Okay, so if you think nursing home, don't just think that institutional convalescent hospital, but think those more advanced senior living places. Apartments, we're going to boil it down so that we're speaking simple language. We're going to boil apartments down to two different types: center hallway or garden. A center hallway, the doors to the dwellings open to a hallway inside the building. Garden style apartments, the doors from the dwellings open outside into sometimes a courtyard, sometimes just a balcony or just the street. So that's a garden. A motel, think of motor up. So you drive up, you hop out of your car and you walk right to your door and you go inside. So a motel is like a garden apartment. It opens to the outside, to the street. A hotel, the rooms open to that center hallway. So a hotel is like a center hallway apartment. So they could be single story, 2-story, 3-story, and then we have up to 4-story hotels. The 4-story hotel, there's a low-rise training guide that can help you with decision making when you come to a working fire in one of those things. So you can review that. And then we have taxpayers. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on taxpayers. We're going to move that into commercial, but know that they're out there. What's the big taxpayer in Galt? What's the address number? 400 D Street, or is it 400 or 400? Okay. So that's a taxpayer. Commercial below, residential above. Taxpayers don't have to be configured that way. But it just incorporates a residence somewhere in the commercial property. So just keep that in mind. So those are the multifamily dwellings. So all multifamily dwellings, when they're on fire, can be considered occupied until proven otherwise. Okay, so you pull up to a McEwen in the middle of the night. There's 4 different apartments. One of them's on fire. Do you know that the other 3 are empty? No. You can't tell just by looking. I mean, cars in the driveway are not the indicator under these circumstances. Same thing in an apartment, a garden apartment. How about a center hallway apartment? Working fire in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day. Is that thing occupied? It's occupied. So what mode are we going to be in right away? Automatic. Rescue, right? Life safety, rescue mode. So they are occupied until proven otherwise. We can break down single family dwelling fires. We have to really make that decision, based on some feedback. But what does this change for us primarily operationally? What do we... No two out, right? Everybody can go to work. Everybody can go to work. So keep that in mind. Until you search it and you declare it to be empty, it's occupied. So RECIO VS, we still use this. Rescue, exposure, confinement, extinguishment, overhaul. You throw ventilation in and salvage in when you need it. There are other acronyms that you can use. Use the one that works for you. This is the one I use. And just been using it for a number of years. It seems to still work for me. So when it comes to RECIO, we start with rescue. Rescue at multifamily dwelling fires is accomplished through the careful coordination of 3 tactical objectives. Okay, so these are your 3 primary tactical objectives. There are a lot of tasks that get done with this, okay? But tactically, here's what we want to do. We want to attack the fire. We want to search the building. And we want to ventilate when necessary. Okay, so attack the fire, search the building, rescue people if you find them, and coordinate ventilation. What is evacuation? And how is that different than search and rescue?
Evacuation is getting everybody out, like in exposures.
Okay.
Indicates they could do it on their own power.
Yes. So working away from the fire or at the fire and away, getting people out of the way. But evacuation indicates they can do it themselves. You knock on their door, boom, 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 fire department, get out. They open the door, what's going on? Building's on fire, get out. Oh, okay. And they can go. Okay, but you get there and they open the door and grandpa is in a hospital bed in the front room. Okay, can grandpa ambulate and get out himself? Probably not. Okay, so we got to rescue grandpa under those conditions. So evacuation, hey, get out. They hop up, they get off the couch, and they get out. Rescue, they can't get out themselves. All right, so what we want to do with these 3 tactical objectives is we want to coordinate them, communicate them, and attack. Coordinate is size up. Coordinate is risk assessment. Coordinate is talking back and forth between the red hats typically. Okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? If you guys do face-to-face and you make a decision, then what? You've just coordinated. Now what are you going to do? You got to communicate, right? You got to tell us. Give us an update. Tell us what you're doing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're offensive, rescue mode, trucks doing vertical ventilation. Okay, cool. So you coordinate it, you communicate it, then you do your task, you attack. So fire attack, what is our objective? Okay, so if we can put the fire out, what do we say? If you put the fire out, then what? All your other problems go away, right? So that may be the best thing that you can do tactically, is get a nozzle to the fire and put the fire out. That may be the best way to save the most people. A well-placed first attack line may be the difference between life and death. So it doesn't always work out that way, okay? And these fires for us are fairly rare, but I think there's been some pretty decent video over the last few months of apartment fires where some pretty sketchy rescues have been done. So you never know when you're going to be faced with one of these. So you got to be ready. But getting that nozzle to the fire and putting the nozzle between the victims and the fire may be your best bet. So let's talk about a center hallway, 3-story hotel. Okay, you arrive, center hallway, 3-story hotel, and on the 3rd floor, you can see that one of the rooms is on fire. Okay, you got a black window, you got some smoke. Okay, you're going to access the stairwell. You're going to go upstairs. What are you going to find when you open the door to the third floor?
Possibly be charged with so much. Yeah.
Okay, might be smoky, right? Might be smoky, okay? So you counted, it's 3 rooms from the stairwell. So you're gonna go in and you're gonna go down to the 3rd room on the left-hand side, and that's your room that's on fire, okay? What if you feel the door and it's hot?
We have some water.
Okay, you gotta have water with you, right? Now, is that your fire room probably? Okay, you guessed 3 rooms. You go down, room 1 was okay, room 2 was okay, room 3 is hot. So what happens when you force that door and you open it up?
Air.
Could be a backdraft. You've changed it, right? You've changed. So what can we say about the pressure inside the room that's on fire? Positive, high pressure, right? Higher pressure. Pressure in the hallway, lower, right? And fire goes from what? High to low, okay? So you saw that window outside. You said, hey, it's the 3rd apartment, 3rd floor. Let's go. What could help you in this situation before you open that door? Ventilation, right? Ventilation. So now if we've coordinated and communicated what we want, we're going to get to the 3rd room on the 3rd floor. When the nozzle's in place and charged, I'm going to give you the radio signal to break the window. Truck says, yeah, right on. 35-foot ladder up there, and they got somebody waiting, okay? Long handles, whatever it is, okay? That's the outside vent. It's a riding position in a lot of ladder trucks across this country. You sit in this seat, you are the outside vent person, okay? We don't practice with it because our construction features are a little bit different, and we don't run fires in 5-story apartment buildings on a daily basis like a lot of places, especially in the older cities, do. Okay, but it doesn't mean that that isn't important, and you couldn't come across a situation where that tactic might help you. So think about that and practice that or coordinate that and train on, hey, what would be a good time where we'd want to ventilate before entering a building? Once this is all going on, the fire attack is happening, we have to reinforce it. This is a commercial building, okay? This is not a non-complex building. This is a complex building. So we have to call more companies and reinforce the attack. We got anything good? Hose selection. We need to make sure we're choosing the proper size and number of lines based on the volume of fire and the stretch. Why does the stretch have anything to do with this?
Medic, someone take that, please. Hillview Road.
Get your intern a coffee.
Man, he was struggling.
Interns cannot make it through this class without falling asleep. And I'll say this to the camera. They're so knowledgeable that they just don't need this education. It's awesome. And he's with it. I could just, bam, wake up. I know, man. I think he was intimidated. He didn't want to slide in the back.
He was goading. He was like, look at
That's awesome. You might have to edit that one out and maybe just post that part to Facebook.
10:52.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we also want stretch is important because your pre-connect might not make it, right? Was anyone on the Great CSD fire? No? Okay. Engine 71 pulled the blitz line. Okay. You know where they parked? Where the mail truck parks there at the old admin? Okay. Parked pretty close to the Alpha Delta corner. And they pulled the blitz line and went in the front doors with that. And it worked. They got water on the fire. But they said, yeah, we could have used 50 more feet. So that, even though that's a pretty close spot, that pre-connect isn't necessarily going to make it in a commercial building everywhere you need to go. Okay, so you need to use suppression systems too. If they're present, most of our 3-story apartment buildings will have standpipes. and you go to the landings, out, like on the garden styles, you go to the landings and you can find standpipe connections. So you got to know where you can pump that thing and where you can connect to it. That will help you with your stretch. You can get a shorter amount of hose closer to the fire using the systems. So you need to pump standpipes and support sprinkler systems. You need to know your first and second due areas. So first due, there's a certain number of multifamily dwellings in every first due. So you just got to go out there and find them and get used to them and check them out. Why would you need to know your second due?
It become your first due really fast.
Yeah, your first due company over there might be on a code and your first due. And what else do you do if you're second due? You could be command, right? Someone's saying, like, I went to a fire at Sam's Club the other day, and we were outside that place trying to find the PIV to shut the sprinklers down, and there just wasn't one. It's all in the fire control room. So we found it, but it took a while. So know those things. Know your first and second due areas. Like we said, pre-connected lines may come up short. Company evolutions. The new rewrite is getting ready to come out. They're pretty cool. They look good. Brian McLean did a lot of hard work on that. But you need to practice. Companies need to know, what are the capabilities? Okay, I know how to pull in my 1 3/4 pre-connect. I know how to pull my 2.5-inch blitz line. But how do I get that extra hose? If I need 500 feet of 2.5-inch, how am I going to effectively get that out there? What can me and 2 other people do? How do we get that done? Okay, so practicing that type of stuff is important. Hose selection is important. Search and rescue. So you go from the involved area to the uninvolved area. What is more difficult to search? The involved, right? What are we dealing with there? We're dealing with heat. We're dealing with smoke. We're dealing with adrenaline. We're dealing with fear. We're dealing with craziness, etc. So that's the hard part to search. Okay? Searching the uninvolved area is a little bit easier. And depending on the size of building, etc., we can maybe employ, put some other people involved in helping us to evacuate, like maybe cops in certain areas. But we want to start by searching the involved area, okay? And that usually goes hand in hand with getting a nozzle to that involved area. So we're going to get the nozzle there. We're going to put the fire out. We're going to search. So we need a lot of people concentrating on that. Once we've got that going, where do we search next? Okay, uninvolved areas. And where's the fire want to go? It's going up first, right? So we're going to get above it. We need to look above it. Get above the fire. Check it out. How about a multi-story building? Let's go with a 4-story hotel. Fire's on the first floor. Where are we going to search next? Okay, we're going to go to the second floor. Then where? Top, right? And why do we do that? Why do we skip third? Okay, because as that stuff rises and it hits the lid at the top, then it's going to be higher concentrations of carbon monoxide and deadly gases, etc. So that's the place we want to look for victims next, and then we can drop to the third floor. Okay, so that's just kind of a high-rise tactic, but you can employ it in your low rises too. Okay, do we want to search below the fire?
Yes.
Okay, what are we looking for below the fire?
People.
Okay, people. Do we evacuate people? Heck yeah, we find them below the fire, we're kicking them out. What else are we looking for? What if we got smoke below the fire? Okay, where did it start? What's below this? Where'd that smoke come from? How'd that smoke get here? Right, so you can have fire dropping down in a wall, or you could even have your point of origin be below. So you got to search for hidden fire. Get the people out, search for hidden fire. I know you guys know this, but there is the potential for the temptation to split up because there's a lot of work that needs to get done here. Okay, so searching in teams is important, and teams minimum of 2. Okay, so if you're a truck company and you want to split 2 and 2, go for it, but don't go 0 and 4. That would be 4 ones and 0. You don't want to split up and search alone, okay? Because then if something bad happens, you're on your own, and there won't be that backup to communicate that something bad happened, okay? And then once you find things, whether you're working directly for the IC or for your division, you want to report your findings. So search and rescue, have a pattern, and it's got to happen early. Ventilation. You try to use ventilation to improve conditions. Okay, so there's offensive ventilation. Okay, you're trying to release the heat and the smoke, trying to make conditions better for the firefighters and for the people that might be in there. So think offensive ventilation, make life better. Defensive, we want to control the lateral spread. Okay, so a defensive vent is, I got a well-established fire here. I'm going to try to save a certain portion of the building. So we're talking strip cuts, trench cuts, etc., to release the fire when it gets to your chosen spot. So think flow path. Okay, ventilation equals flow path. Right? So you don't want to make it worse. So if I'm heading down this way towards the fire where the door is, and I hear the chainsaw behind me, is that a potential problem? Okay, we've created a flow path now that I happen to be going down. So I'm going down the throat of the dragon, and that's not the good place to be. So coordination is very important. Do we want to vent the fire floor? Okay. What do we think of when we think ventilation? We normally think vertical, right? We normally think get above it. So 2-story house, fire on the ground floor. Do we vertically ventilate that? Not always, right? Not always. Horizontal ventilation might be best for that because there's not a direct pathway from the fire out. I remember seeing an old IFSTA book where they showed a multi-story building with a ventilation crew on the roof cutting a hole, and below them, a firefighter cutting a hole in the floor, and then below that guy, another firefighter cutting a hole in the floor, creating a chimney throughout the multi-story building. Okay, it may work, I don't know. To me, it's not a very efficient way to ventilate a building. It takes a lot of work.
Throw some fans in there, pressurize each floor.
So, but basically when we look at ventilation, we size it up, we think, okay, it's a multi-story building. Fire is not near the roof, okay? It's below. I'm going to horizontally ventilate this thing first. You can vent above the fire floor if it is the top floor. If the fire's on the top floor, closest to the roof, now you've got an access for vertical ventilation, and that might be the best way to make it happen. So a mid-building fire, horizontal might be your best friend. Pressurizing egress stairwells. Why do we want to do that? Provide better air, right? So if you go into a 4-story and the fire's on the 3rd floor and the people that got out left the door open into the stairwell, where can we expect the smoke to be? 3rd floor and above, right? So the 4th floor people, if it's really hot black smoke and they're coming out into that stairwell, are they going to be able to make it through? Okay, probably not, right? So they might choose a different stairwell or they could get trapped up there. So what happens if we pressurize the stairwell?
It'll keep the smoke on the door.
Okay, when that door is open, it should help to hold it in. But what if it's already charged? What can we do then with the smoke?
We'll just push it out.
Okay, so we got to find a place to get it out, right? So we can go above it. If your little placard in the stairwell says roof access, is that a good thing? Okay, what will we find up there? Could be a hatch, could be a door, depends on the type of construction, okay? So we've got both, but if you open the door or you open the hatch, now you're giving it a place to go, okay? So think about pressurizing stairwells. All right, this is a multi-group organization. It's not necessarily how it has to be. You might go with divisions, but like on a garden-style apartment, if you had a fire and you had people working in fire attack, people doing search and rescue, and people doing ventilation, The incident commander could set up those 3 functional groups and assign people to it and organize things. Like I said, Division Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta might be the better, or Division 1, 2, 3, and 4 might be the better, depending on your building, okay, the complexity of the building. This just is a multi-group incident. Taking into account those 3 objectives: fire attack, search and rescue, and ventilation. All right, continuing down our Recio. I'm going to go for a couple more minutes and we'll take a quick break. So, after rescue, we have exposure. So I want you to think about flow path. Multifamily dwellings always have an exposure. Okay, so just the nature of multifamily dwelling is there's multiple units. So if one unit's on fire, there are exposures. The exposure could be in the unit on fire, could be the people that are in the unit on fire, or the uninvolved parts, or it's the dwellings next door, the other dwellings in the building, or if the whole thing's going, then it's, of course, whatever's surrounding it are your exposures. But you have exposures above the fire in multi-story buildings. You have exposures adjacent to the fire, the other dwellings. Below the fire we talked about, and then nearby are the other buildings. So what about weather? Does weather play a part? Okay, if you can think of some of the older apartment buildings, maybe wood shake roofs, that type of stuff. Apartment fire in the summertime, north wind maybe. What else do we get in the summertime? What's another type of wind that we get?
Santa Ana.
Okay, you could get Santa Ana's, sure. More common in Southern California, but common around here because of our wetlands to our west and south. The Delta breeze. Did you say that, John? Good job, John. Thank you. So yeah, we might have the Delta breeze. So the fire that I had on Main Line, there wasn't a big wind, but the doors, the location of the fire and the doors that were left open by the occupants, there was a flow path in that house that was amazing. It was like a blowtorch, from the garage through the master bedroom and out the back slider. And there was just a wind tunnel of damage, and things on either side weren't damaged that badly. So, think flow path, and weather can have an effect on that. So if you have a weather event that's not really affecting the fire right now, think about what happens when you open a door, or you break a window, or you cut a hole. And that wind now has the ability to reinforce the flow path of the fire. Okay, you got to be ahead of that kind of stuff. So flow path, think heat transfer. What are the ways that heat transfers?
Conduction, convection.
Yes, right? Firefighter 1, right? Conduction, convection, radiation. So when we think flow path, which of those 3 are we typically thinking about? Convection, right? Convection, the convective currents of the heat. Okay, so think heat transfer when you think flow path. Size up. Is the tick a good tool for size up? Okay, can it tell you things from the outside? Can it help identify your flow path? Can you see the heat maybe transferring? Sometimes you can, sometimes maybe not. Okay. If your stairwells are being cut off, access and egress stairwells are being cut off by the flow path, can you control that? Maybe. Could be a door, right? Could be a door. Okay. How about transitional strategies? If your flow path is what is impeding you from going where I want to go and doing what I want to do, what might be a way to manage flow path? Okay. And then what is this nozzle thing in my hand right here? If I cool the heated space, transitional attack, we're going to be offensive. We're going to transition. We're on the alpha side. We're going to hit the fire, then we're going to go in. And we're cooling the space, okay? Because this is where I want to go in, but right now it's breathing fire at me, okay? Consider transitional attack. Consider it. Controlling the door. What you're trying to do is reduce thermal threat. So there are NIOSH reports on line of duty death where the firefighters didn't get lost, didn't run out of air, their SCBA did not fail them, but they were killed from heat. okay? They ended up in a bad place, and the flow path overtook them. And it was a thermal insult to their body that killed them. So that's what we're trying to do, is reduce that for the public and the firefighters. So that's why we consider in exposure, we consider flow path. We consider ourselves to be the exposure and the public too. And we want to make that better for them. So Slicers is an acronym that some people are using. Some people are interpreting this as like this is now the way, okay? That Recio no longer exists. Recio is dead, and now this is the way. I don't subscribe to that. I think that there are situations where, this is misinterpreted, and I will try to see if I can explain that to you. But let's see if we can find Recio in this. So in Slicers, it stands for size up, locate the fire, identify and control the flow path, cool the heated space from a safe location, and extinguish the fire. And then rescue and salvage comes when there's an opportunity to do that. So in Recio, where do you see rescue in Slicers? Rescue being the first in Recio. Where do you see that in Slicers?
Kind of the bottom.
Okay. Are they saying you don't do rescue? No, they're not. They're saying it's an action of opportunity. So I would say if it's an action of opportunity that needs to occur, we're probably going to try to do that first. Okay. But Slicers doesn't necessarily emphasize it that way, but I think you could probably interpret it that way. Do we want to size things up? Yeah, that's our risk assessment. Should we try to locate the fire? What are some ways to locate a fire?
Walk around the building.
Okay, walk around.
Use your tip.
Tick.
Send an intern in there.
Send an intern in. Wake them up. Hey, wake up, get in there. How about reading smoke? Okay, reading smoke. Looking for the highest velocity smoke coming from the smallest opening is one way to figure out, that's pretty dang close to the fire right there. Okay, so we want to locate the fire. We want to identify and control the flow path. What in Recio is equal to that? Containing the fire, right? Controlling doors. So, that's not, I don't think that's a new concept. I think that NIST and the science has shown us some good evidence of things that we can learn from and given us a new term that we can use, flow path. But I think that confining the fire is something we've been trying to do for a long time. How about cool the heated space from a safe location? Okay. Extinguishment, right? Extinguishment. Do you interpret that as the safe location is always outside the building? I don't interpret it that way. It's from a safe location. Do we want to extinguish the fire from an unsafe location? No. So the safest location may be outside. The safe location may be inside. So you may get in there and be in a safe location. You're not in the room that's on fire. And if you can now control the fire, then you're in a safe location and you extinguish the fire the way we normally do. So it's one of your strategies, offensive, defensive, or transitional. It's one of your strategies that you can choose. So if a transitional strategy is what you need, it's the best thing and you're going to cool the space from outside the building, do it. Cool the space from outside the building. Okay, and then rescue and salvage, those things get thrown in there. And I don't think that any of us are going to skip over a rescue when we find it. I think we're going to take care of it, and we're going to do it in a highly calculated manner, but we will hang it out there a little bit more for rescue. Okay, so that's Slicers. So confining and extinguishing the fire, we want to make the building behave. We talk about making the building behave a little bit more when we're in a property mode. Okay, but you still can do it when you're in life safety mode. It just needs to happen a little quicker. Okay, so coordinating that and practicing speaking the language and talking from engine captain to truck captain to engine captain. or command to an engine captain and vice versa, and making those decisions and communicating them out. We want to control the lateral spread. Okay, we're trying to confine this fire and keep it from taking more of the building than it needs to. That takes sufficient hose lines. So the given fire will tell you how many hose lines you need to have. Once you've got the fire attack going, you've got it confined. Okay, now you want to get above it and look for extension. You're looking for hidden fire. Trucks and engines going above the fire. Trucks are going to open up and look for hidden fire for you. Engines are going to put it out. Putting the wet stuff on the red stuff is where we're headed. So you confine it, you get yourself coordinated, you extinguish it, and on a multifamily dwelling, a complex building, incident command has to support that. More people, more people. Okay, it doesn't mean everybody just goes running in there, but having reserve companies so you can maintain that attack. When the first companies are running out of air, you want to have replacement companies to send them in. And so you don't lose the ground that you've already gained. Salvage and overhaul, I think we do a good job of this. We are a customer service oriented department. Controlling the building, that means a lot of stuff, right? So one is if salvage is too risky, then don't do it. If overhaul is too risky, then don't do it. Okay, so you have to control the building, access and egress to the building. You want to manage the risk. The lowest acceptable risk is what you'll accept. Okay, so you have to look at the situation. The CSD fire, there was some work that needed to be done in there, but there were some areas that we just didn't go into because it just wasn't worth it. What were we going to save in the boardroom? When a AC unit fell through and knocked you on the head. Okay, but when we can find the hidden fire and put it out, we're going to do that. We're going to try to control the loss. We do property preservation from time to time. Water damage can increase the property loss. So when was the last time you practiced moving water around through your house, like building a chute or something like that, or a catch basin? It's kind of something we don't really do, right? Unless the intern needs a sign off, right? So those are things we need to kind of keep up on and be well trained. If especially when you get new people out of the academy and stuff, train them how to do that stuff. It's not stuff we do every day, but from time to time, especially in these complex buildings, fire damage is going to be over there. There might be more water damage over here we need to deal with. If you get the salvage assignment, hey, stop by a truck and grab some covers and take them in. And then treat property as if it were your own. We know we go to a lot of these places and, it's just Walmart stuff, right? And so, but we all have Walmart stuff in our homes probably too. So treat it like it's your own and do the best you can for the customer. They're having a really bad day. So if you try to make it a little bit better for them, that's the image we want to portray. Multiple alarms. We want to strike these early. We don't want to get behind the fire. For command officers, if you pull in, you're a captain, you pull in second, and you're going to be it for a while. Think divisions and groups. Divisions and groups help you maintain accountability. If I've got 2 alarms working, and if I don't break it up, then I have to account for everybody on scene. But if I can break up my workload and talk to 2 or 3 different divisions or groups, and they can account for the people that are assigned to them, made my job easier, and we still have active accountability throughout the incident. Staging your equipment, you want to have it parked close enough that you can get to it if you need it. If you don't need the apparatus, but you need the stuff, bring the stuff up and make equipment stashes. Set up incident rehab. How do we do on this as a department? What's our incident rehab like?
Case of water.
Yeah, case of water on the front lawn. There you go, bud. It's 3 years old and it's really hot. We could do a better job, and but if you can get Rehab 99 out there, or Wilton's got their little rehab trailer that they'll bring out, they're happy to do that. So think about it, and especially on a multi-alarm, we want to make sure everybody's healthy. Rick, It's not required when we're actively searching and rescuing, right? Actually, Rick is never required, but 2 out is. But once we transition, then we got to put that in place. Or on a multi-alarm, hey, let's put it in there because it is an important thing. It's not legally necessary, but it's the right thing to do. And so we're going to choose the appropriate level for the fire for the complexity of the building. Level 1, level 2, or level 3. Rick, if you get assigned Rick, you should think I'm accountability officer. Okay, I'm going to be the Rick crew in Division Alpha. Who's working in Division Alpha? Where are they? Where'd they go? Because if you hear a mayday, you kind of got to figure out, okay, where am I going here? So think accountability, and then you might be in multiple locations around the incident depending on the complexity of the building. Okay, so staying ahead of that incident for firefighter safety right there. Planning section. We have 2 documents that say third alarm, you should consider planning. Okay, so one is the county SOG on commercial structure fires. It says right in there, third alarm, consider activating the planning section. We have an internal SOP, I think it's number 39, operations 39, something like that. But it's just kind of a checklist. Hey, if you get planning, here's some things that you should think about. And basically you go over to the buggy and you gather the information that the chief has all, spread out all over the place, and you try to consolidate it down and start working on the incident action plan and actually writing it. We have little forms you can go in there and you can write them down. And then you need to start thinking about the next operational period, whatever that is. Depending on what time of day the call comes in, what shift is on duty, who's leaving, who's coming, you can start working on a plan. The CSD fire kind of challenged that whole thing because the staffing component was in the building that was on fire, right? So no one could go and access staffing and figure out who's who in the zoo. So we went back to old school telephones and stuff. But think about the planning section. You can plan for long haul, resource status, situation status, accountability, crew rotations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So think about the planning section. All right, this is the slide that I said you would see again. Okay, so this is your takeaway. This is the things, these are your action items, things that you can practice, things you can work on. And when we progress through the technology part of this, we're going to do a little bit today. I'm going to introduce you to it. But this is the kind of stuff that we want to practice. All right, so before we do that, let's take about a 10-minute break. So we'll be back here right around 11:30 and we'll finish up.